Good day, everybody, and welcome to 20 Minutes on Ice, powered by the Garage Door Sports Network. I'm your host, Ryan, and as always, in the co-host position is Nick. We've got another great show coming up for you today, so let's get right to our opening face-off. Today on 20 Minutes on Ice, we are going to be talking about Pierre-Luc Dubois. We talked about him last week. He wanted a trade. This week, he got the trade. He's on his way to Winnipeg for Patrik Laine and Jack Roslovic. Washington has been fined $100,000 for violating COVID protocols, so that's a story we got to get into. Plus, we're going to look quickly at Montreal and Vancouver, who played a 3-game set this past week. Kind of lots of news and notes coming out of that series, and it was interesting to see. That was kind of our first 3-game series in the Canadian division, so it was interesting to watch that play out over the week. We got Players of the Week returning this week. We got a brand new segment, which we will get to later in the show, and of course, we wrap it all up with the randomizer, but I need some help in this, and so I'm going to bring in a teammate who would never, ever put clear tape on a teammate's skate blade, Nick McVicker. Nick, how's it going?
Pretty good, man. Yeah, I wouldn't do that personally, because I don't have clear tape. I don't use it.
Oh,
I
wow.
might be the only person in the world who doesn't use it when they play it comes to hockey. I refuse to use it.
Are you color tape or no tape?
No tape.
No tape on socks. Okay.
No tape on socks. No need. I wrap my sock under my foot in my skate.
Oh,
Sounds
interesting.
really weird.
Okay.
Sounds really weird, but it's just the way I always have because my feet usually get so cold. So.
Well, it's like back in the day where they had stirrups on the socks. So.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it was, I never had clear tape in my bag, never had it around, and never would have done that. I will enjoy the laugh, though, when someone tries to go on the ice with clear tape on the skate.
Got to get the new guy with the clear tape on the skate blade.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Lots of stuff going on in the hockey world, but before we get to that, I had, I guess it's not an odd situation. It's a situation with my wife that apparently I misread. And she didn't understand how I could misread the situation. Yeah, so I'm gonna run this by you, Nick, and see if there's any way that I should have misread this situation.
I don't want to get in trouble with your wife. Hold on.
No. This has been dealt with. This was several days ago, but I mean, I'm just trying to make a case here and gain some support. I'm doing work here in the 20 Minutes HQ studios, and I get a text on my phone. Come upstairs to cuddle, winky face. Now I'm saying the winky face sold it because I dropped everything I was doing and went upstairs to cuddle. Well, when I got up there, it turns out that it really was just to cuddle. And she was, no, not the quotes. Get rid of the quotes on that one. I'm throwing around the quotes like crazy. So it legit was just to cuddle. And she was asleep 15 minutes later. And the winky face was just, I guess, her being nice. But to me, the winky face insinuated there would be more. And I mean,
I would. The winky face usually means more. It could have been a mistype though, because those are right beside each other.
No, it was ... winky face. It was a deliberate winky face.
No, I mean the colon and the semicolon are right beside each other. Like it could have been a misclick.
That's a very rare mistype. I think you're reaching there, Nick. I mean,
I'm trying to defend your wife.
That's something you got to proofread too. If the winky face is a mistype, I mean, even you follow it up with a follow-up text.
Yes, but you said you dropped everything and ran upstairs. She didn't have time to recheck the message.
There was no indication afterwards that the winky face was a mistype because when we were discussing this, I don't know. I indicated how let down.
I don't know. I mean, yes, you're right. You are right. That yes, it would come across as something more. But
I think any romantic partner in that situation would see the winky face and understand that there's ulterior motives there, but not in my wife's case. It was just a friendly winky face. My wife put me in the friend zone. Tell me if I'm wrong here. We would love to know on our Twitter feed at 20 Minutes on Ice. Am I wrong for reading into the winky face? But let's get into the hockey talk, Nick.
It's going to be a very interesting Twitter poll.
I can't wait to see the answers that come in. Let me know if I'm wrong about the winky face there. But we have been mentioning about when the season first started, we saw coaches pulling down their masks quite a bit to communicate. I would like to note that this week I did see coaches making an effort to keep their masks on the bench, even when their instincts told them to pull it down. I don't know if you noticed the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly been some sort of protocol has been sent around the league, and they're like, okay, well, we gotta try to keep the masks on as much as possible. Whether or not that continues, I don't know, and we will definitely see. But there was some email thread sent around the league being like, hey boys,
keep mask up. Yeah, keep it on, especially when they're running. I don't know if they're running ads in the States, but they're definitely running ads in Canada. And this was all part of the government's allowing them to play, where they're telling people to, wear masks and stay safe. So when you have that messaging going on during every game, during the commercial breaks, and then the coaches are, whipping down their masks to throw spittle everywhere, which they're not. Well, that's what we're saying. They've improved this week. I would agree with you. There's definitely been a communication to the coaches there. Speaking of coaches on NBC sometimes this year, Mike Babcock, and then
sometimes isn't he part of the main broadcast?
Is he part of the whole broadcast? I don't want to watch him. I don't want to hear what he has to say. I'm on the Mike Babcock is not a respectable coach bandwagon. Successful, yes, but the way he did it was probably not respectable, and that's the bandwagon I'm on. I don't know your thoughts on Mike Babcock.
Yeah, it's hard to say he's canceled, because I know that's the culture we're in, is it's cancel culture. And do I think he deserves another chance? He would really need to prove to an organization that he has changed. And at his age and his experience level, chances are he hasn't changed and he won't change. And that's where the flag comes in and be like, no, we cannot in good conscience bring you into our organization at this point in time. It's an unfortunate situation because, as you said, he is successful. But if you're an organization and you're looking at Mike Babcock just for his success, you're not going to last very long as an organization in today's society. It's just not the way you can run stuff anymore.
His style is not going to work with today's player. And even I think it was Dreger that might have been able to ask him about the Mitch Marner Toronto Maple Leafs situation, where the rumor is he asked Mitch Marner, I think it was in his rookie year, to rank himself as far as work ethic. And Mitch ranked all the players, I think it was.
No, he asked him to rank all the players. This is not reported. This is proven.
Okay.
He was asked to rank all the players, and he wasn't going to share it with anybody. It was just for Mitch and Babs.
And then he went ahead and shared it.
If that's the case, fine, you don't.
Yeah, exactly. But that wasn't
But then it came out that he shared it to everybody, which has since come out again that he didn't share it with everybody. He shared it with Bozak.
This is where I have a problem.
Okay, regardless.
Yeah.
You said you weren't going to share it with anybody. So even if all he did was share it with Bozak, that's past the line. That means you broke players' trust.
Yeah.
And that it goes against everything that you stood for. So no, I'm not okay with it regardless.
Yeah, Babcock's version of that story now makes him very much is a favorable story now to Mike Babcock.
That's still not a favorable story to me.
No, but he doesn't seem like such a scumbag, and I'm not necessarily inclined to believe that it went exactly the way that Babcock said. Also, at the same time, maybe how the story came out from Marner's camp, it didn't exactly go that way, but I'm more likely to.
Well, Marner's camp never said anything.
Whoever said it.
Marner's camp didn't leak it. It came out. I can't remember how it came out, but it came out that he had shared it with everybody. And who knows? Maybe after he shared it with Bozak, if we're believing Babcock only shared it with Bozak, maybe after he shared it with Bozak might have shared it with everybody else and told everybody else what had happened.
Who knows?
Right?
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know what happened in the room, but at the time, and now even, it doesn't look good on Babcock.
No, and I don't want him as a coach. I mean, I think someone will look at him and
he'll definitely get an interview, but I don't think he'll be back in the next 5 years.
Well, if you're a Mike Babcock fan, you can find him on the NBC Sports broadcasts for several NHL games this year.
And it could be the last year of NBC Sports Network, so keep your eyes peeled on them.
Oh, and the NHL would love to go to ESPN. They would love to.
Oh, yeah.
They wouldn't say it, but yeah, they would love to. So it might be difficult to do our Barks and Hubie tracker. Jonathan Huberdeau, Alexander Barkov, Florida Panthers.
It is not difficult. I have it. I have the numbers.
You're ready to go? Because did they play that much this week? They were supposed to play Dallas to start the season. Canceled. They were supposed to play Carolina. Canceled. I mean, they got 2 games in against Chicago, which they both won. So let's hit the Barks and Hubie tracker. Let's set this up. I like both players. I like Huberdeau better than I like Barkov. You are the other way around.
not necessarily. Like I like both of them a lot. Like
Okay, but you made it out like I trashed Barkov. He's a fine player.
Because you did trash Barkov.
He's a fine player. And Huberdeau's better, and hit the tracker because I think we'll end up proving it here. Let's see.
Not by much. So they've played one game since we've last done the Huberdeau tracker.
Perfect.
And this week. And last week, Barkov won the week.
Did he?
In the one game.
Debatable.
In the one game, Barkov won the week. He had 2 assists in the game this week, whereas Huberdeau only added 1 point, and it was an assist. So
he needed some warm up, and one game doesn't make a player. I still think Huberdeau.
I don't think so either. But right now, the Barks and Hubie watch. If we're going full season, Huberdeau has 1 goal, 3 assists for 4 points in 2 games. Barkov has no goals, 3 assists for 3 points in 2 games. It's going to be close right down to the wire, Ryan. Keep your eyes peeled for Barks and Hubie.
All right. Well, it'll prove that Jonathan Huberdeau is a better player than Alexander Barkov. But they're both good players. Anyways, let's get to the Pierre-Luc Dubois, Patrick Laine trade. All right, let's break it down. Everyone knows it was Thursday, January 21st, Tampa Bay in Columbus, and Pierre-Luc Dubois plays 5 shifts in the first period, and then it becomes
a total of 3 minutes and 53 seconds.
Yeah, and then it becomes apparent that he's not playing the rest of the game, and he sat in the middle of the bench, and the ISO cams on him did not look good. His last shift there, I didn't see his other 4 shifts, so I don't know what happened there. His last shift, the ISO cam, it looked really bad, the effort that he was giving, and the straw that broke.
My favorite thing was I saw on Twitter, someone's like, yeah, it looked like a beer league hockey shift. I'm like, I watched it back, I'm like, oh yeah, I could see myself doing that kind of shift.
He was not even in cruise control. He was out for a stroll on that last shift. And
almost ran into his teammate in their own end.
Horrible forecheck, not moving his feet at all. I don't know what he was generating. It didn't look like the puck was near him, except when he almost ran into his teammate. Of course, he did go on the forecheck. Even when he was sitting on the bench, it didn't look good because he's biting his nails and doing his nails. It's like, you just sit there, man. And
hold on. He has to sit there for basically 2 hours at that point.
Don't care.
Like 5 minutes. No, but I'm just saying it's like 5 or 8 minutes into the first period, right? So you now have 50 plus minutes of game time, plus intermissions, plus stoppages. You're sitting there for like a solid 2 hours at that point.
Well, it only took 2 more days. And at that point, I mean, he's got to go. You can't have that.
Oh, yeah.
You can't have that hanging around. I was hoping Columbus would move him. So they do move him with a 3rd-round pick to Winnipeg for 2 players that wanted out of Winnipeg, Patrick Laine and Jack Roslovic. Let's look at Dubois in Winnipeg. Is he going to flourish? Are we going to see the same level Dubois in Winnipeg? And this is obviously tremendous for their center ice as well.
Yeah, I mean, do we see the same Dubois? I kind of hope that you don't see the same Dubois because he hasn't. I don't think he's reached his peak. Do I think he has the potential to be a very good addition to this team? Absolutely. I think what's going to happen is Paul Stastny is either going to move to the 3rd-line center role or flip to the wing on that 2nd line. And if he flips to the wing, that 2nd line of Stastny, Dubois, and Ehlers, that's a dangerous 2nd line. I don't think he goes onto the 1st line right away, and that's just because I think Scheifele, Wheeler, and Connor are so good as that 1st line. I just don't think they mess with that. Very similar to what I was saying in Montreal. I don't think they would have messed with the 1st line in Montreal right now. I think he would have ended up on the de facto 2nd line in Montreal.
I think eventually
that in air quotes for sure.
Yeah, I think eventually in Winnipeg, it'll flatten itself out and you'll see that top line get mixed up because you want to spread out the scoring.
For sure.
And you want someone like Wheeler and Dubois, if that's who you go with, or if you go with Connor and Dubois, you want those going up against 2nd pairing D-men on a lot of shifts during the game. So if that's where I can see, I'm not a believer in Dubois as a superstar. I think what you see is what you get, and that's very good.
I think he has another level. I'm not saying he's going to be like elite, but I think he has another level.
And what do you have? 27 goals, 29 goals, something along those lines is his career high. But he's a defensively responsible player. He wasn't showing it early in the season in Columbus because he was disinterested. And that's the part that scares me. He did not show himself well this season when he needed to be. And now he's in a place like Winnipeg. He's an RFA in 2 years. And is he out? Like, he doesn't have much power as an RFA, but he got himself out of Columbus. Is it the same situation in Winnipeg?
I don't think so. I think he'll give this a legitimate shot because there are some very good young players around him that he can grow with. And just the atmosphere around Winnipeg is not like the atmosphere around Columbus. Like, Paul Maurice is not John Tortorella. Let's make that very clear.
Yeah.
Paul Maurice is more of a player's coach. John Tortorella is in it for John Tortorella. Like, let's be honest.
Darren Dreger said on TSN that he considers Paul Maurice to be the best communicator of all 31 NHL coaches.
And I think that helps. And I think if Dubois legitimately gives this a shot, which I think he will, then he will succeed in Winnipeg and give the Jets a lethal 1-2 punch up the middle with Scheifele.
Absolutely. That's another debate that came up. Which Canadian team now has the best strength down the middle? And a lot of talking heads were saying Winnipeg. Brian Burke from Sportsnet said Edmonton. Fans want to stay Toronto. So it makes the North really strong this year. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. Let's look at Laine.
I think the only thing that can play a factor in that is where they put Paul Stastny. If he stays as a center and goes down to the third line, Winnipeg becomes elite up the middle because then they have Scheifele, Dubois, Stastny, and Lowry as your top four.
Yeah, but I think they're comfortable with Lowry in the third line, and that's why I think Stastny goes to the wing. Let's look at their former winger, Patrik Laine. He's going to Columbus, but he's working with John Tortorella now. So has John Tortorella fired his bullet now? Like, I mean, now that Dubois out, he kind of got Dubois out. He laid the hammer down, showed his power. But if Torts can't make it work with Laine, does Torts go? It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
I think if Columbus doesn't get past the first round this year, Torts goes.
Interesting. That's a lot of pressure. Especially
just because there's a couple players who have been there for a while. They've tried to put it together, and Foligno's contract's up at the end of the year. Riley Nash's contract's up at the end of the year. Mikhail Grigorenko's contract's up at the end of the year. David Savard. So you're putting a lot of effort into this one run with those guys, right? That's my opinion at the moment. And I know that they can build moving forward, but Torts has been doing the same thing, and the defensive game has got them so far in certain rounds. It's gotten them one round win per year, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Tortorella has a successful style. He's almost borderline Babcock. Boring? I don't know if he has a boring style, but from my understanding, from things you hear from players, he lets you know exactly what he wants. Tortorella does.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
Where maybe you don't get that from a guy like Mike Babcock. I don't want to get back into that. But so Laine in Winnipeg tried to lay down the law and say, I'm, franchise player, I'm top line guy. And Winnipeg pushed back with, we want to see more on the defensive end. You got to show us more that you're that top end 100%. Player. How does it not get to that point in Columbus as well?
Oh, I said it as soon as this trade happened. I think I texted Kyle from Garage Door Sports and Betting House. I think I texted him immediately, and I'm like, this is a recipe for disaster.
So you got a personality like Laine, and you got a personality like Max Domi.
Hold on, the personality of Torts, period. Doesn't matter who it is.
They're going to butt heads. Like,
they're screwed.
But the players are almost always going to win out over the coach. Like, to me, this is a make or break situation for John Tortorella now, because the players can outnumber him. Yep. And then, of course, you get a poisonous situation in Columbus where the players are running the show if they don't perform for the new coach. This is making a ton of assumptions, obviously. But, I just don't think it works. And Laine is an RFA after this season, too. You don't hold many rights when you're an RFA. So Dubois RFA in 2 seasons, Laine RFA after this season. So let's say in 2 years, are both of these players still in the cities they are in today?
I think there's a better chance that Dubois is still in Winnipeg than there is of Laine still being in Columbus. And the thing is, it has nothing to do with the player's skill and the player's ability on the ice. It just comes down to, if Tortorella is still there after this year, I don't think Laine is going to want to stay. It's an honest answer. I don't think he has any interest if this doesn't mesh right away for him to stay. And I don't think there's a reason for him to stay at that point, because it's just, that's a situation that is toxic for a player like Laine.
It could be.
To be under the coach, under John Tortorella. I think there's a lot of players who could play under Tortorella and have wild success. We've seen it. But I don't think Laine is one of them.
I think both situations are very dangerous. I think these are a couple somewhat entitled players, and skill and confidence will do that to a player. So it's not like,
top 3 pick as well.
Yeah, it's not like they're horrible people, but there's a bit of entitlement to feeling like a superstar and thinking that you can dictate where you play. I don't know if it can.
That's why I do think Dubois has a better chance of staying, though, just because I think the situation in Winnipeg is honestly better than the one in Columbus. That's just a personal opinion, looking at the teams, looking at the players, looking at the coaching staff, looking at whose contracts are coming up. I think Winnipeg is just better suited right now.
I would go the other way personally, because you look at Tortorella, and you look at Jarmo Kekalainen, GM for the Blue Jackets, notoriously hard negotiator, digs his feet in, and doesn't care, almost Lou Lamoriello type. And he may just say to Laine, "You're an RFA. I literally don't care what you say. You're an RFA. You either play here or you're not playing." So I think it's more likely for the Jets to accommodate Dubois if it got to that part and he wanted out of Winnipeg than it would Laine. Let's touch quickly Jack Roslovic, third line player here, hasn't touched the 20 goal mark, I don't believe, yet in his career, but he is going to his hometown team. I think there will be a bit of a boost there as long as he plays his game. Easier said than done. This is a good pickup. I like this pickup for Columbus, as long as he slides into a proper spot and plays his role.
I think Columbus absolutely fleeced Winnipeg in this deal.
Really?
If I'm being honest. I think Laine is the better player out of him and Dubois. And I would take Jack Roslovic over a 3rd-round pick. Like, I think both positions Columbus won. They've made their forward depth deeper, which I know Winnipeg doesn't necessarily need to do, because they're actually, out of a bunch of teams, they're pretty deep at the forward position with players coming up. So it wasn't a big loss for Winnipeg. But at the same time, like, Columbus fleeced them. If you just look at this straight up, we have to see how it plays out. Obviously, Jack Roslovic could do absolutely nothing in Columbus. Laine could really struggle under Torts, and Dubois could have a resurgence and become an elite centerman. There's a chance for all of that to happen. But on paper, I think Columbus fleeced them.
Well, we have the benefit of time, I suppose, and we'll see where the trade goes. And I think in the short term, 2 years, we could end of next season. So, essentially a year and a half from now, we could know who's won this trade and how it played out, and a very definitive answer. So
here's the crazy thing. 2 years from now, all 3 players could not be on their teams and got their teams nothing.
Yeah, and then it's just a trade that kind of fizzles away.
So then the Jets win because they got a pick.
Exactly. You never know
where the pick go. That's so stupid
in
my head, but that's the possibility.
It's definitely a possibility. We will be right back. We got to get into the Washington Capitals being fined $100,000.
Hey everyone, this is Irfan Manju from Touchline Thoughts. We are an all-soccer podcast hosted by yours truly with guests every episode. We provide news, analysis, and opinions every episode as well. Touchline Thoughts is powered by the Garage Door Sports Network, and you can listen to us on your favorite podcatcher. Cheers.
Continuing on, 20 minutes on ice. Washington Capitals fined $100,000 for violating team protocols. Players got together on a road trip in a hotel without wearing masks. And then we find out possibly it could have been the 4 Russian players, Ovechkin, Orlov, Kuznetsov, and the goalie Samsonov. This is just, I'm sure there's other teams doing it, and so that was probably leading to the we're not going to get caught. But this is just a sloppy team, right? Like we saw the video last week. I talked about it. Peter Laviolette pulling down his mask to kind of yell out at the team congratulations in the change room and share the headbands for players of the game. This is just a team who wasn't trying. There's other teams out there, let's be honest with ourselves, and they got caught and they got fined, and it was meant to be a wake-up call for the whole league.
Yeah, and I think the league handled it the right way.
Yes.
It came out that these guys did something. The news broke originally that they were fined, and then the 4 players were put on protocol. So you know what? It wasn't that the players were put on protocol and then the league had to react because they found out it was because of this. No, the league knew ahead of time. They fined the team, and then the news came out of who was on protocol. If they continue to do it like that, I'm totally fine with it. I think they did the right thing. I think every party handled the situation right. Even Washington handled the situation right afterward.
Disagree.
Afterwards.
Nope, I still disagree. But carry on. I'll make that point after. But I disagree.
Okay.
You were talking about Washington. You thought they handled it properly. You thought the NHL handled it properly after the fact. I still don't think Washington I think they're handling it properly, but I really think they're letting their teammates off the hook here. You would say, look at Nick Foligno on Columbus this past week, and he came out and he said, we have some passengers and we need everybody to get on the same page.
Right.
And we can all know he was talking about Dubois and possibly others. So he wasn't afraid.
No, he was talking about Dubois.
Oh, yes, he was. He wasn't afraid to respectfully call out teammates. Right. Washington, on the other hand, this is a huge loss. These guys, 4 significant pieces of their team were selfish and arrogant and thought they wouldn't get caught or thought that they would be fine. No one, none the wiser. And they've put their team at a disadvantage by taking 4 key pieces out, and the team is just sitting there like, oh, we're gonna move forward. This is a learning lesson. It's like, yeah, it's a learning lesson, and if that's all you took for, like, I want to hear like, yeah, hold
on, Ovechkin came out and said that though. Ovechkin came out and called himself out and said that was my fault. I should have known better. I didn't handle it the right way.
That's fine.
And now that I know, that will never happen again, sort of thing. I'm totally paraphrasing.
Absolutely.
That, by the way, but.
I just want to hear more from the players because, quite frankly, those 4 guys severely let the team down in a way.
Well, the captain stood up and said something.
He did. I guess I'm asking too much. But I want to see more from the team because they would, at a professional level, you expect more from your teammates. Yeah. You need your teammates to be there if you're going to succeed, and their teammates weren't there and made a really stupid mistake that cost the Capitals 4 games. I mean, just before we started recording, they lost to the lowly Sabres. It was in a shootout, 4-3.
The lowly Sabres.
They are
calling them the lowly Sabres this year?
Yeah, so far they're the lowly Sabres. You know what? I don't hope there's another team that gets caught, but I know deep down, I'm assuming, and I have a really gut feeling that there's still several teams out there that are maybe getting good at on camera following the rules, but off camera don't really care about the rules. And the thing I have to say about that is the players signed off on this. They agreed to these rules. So don't sit there and try and dick around your own rules that you agreed to. I know Ovechkin's wife went on a rant in Russian and English on Instagram wondering why the players are allowed to hug after a goal or after a win, but they can't get together in their hotel rooms. Well, the reason, it's dumb, but that's what they signed off on.
It is dumb though. Like I totally get what she's saying. If these guys are literally sweating and screaming at each other from a foot away and hugging after a goal.
Yep.
And their only place they're going is to the hotel afterwards. Yeah, I kind of get why they thought it would be okay, but you know what? The rules are the rules, and you guys did sign off on them, so you kind of gotta accept that, unfortunately, and deal with it until the rules change.
There was even a protocol put in: minimize excessive handshakes, high-fiving, and celebrations, and that hasn't happened. And
No.
and nobody is really going to call them out.
Nobody
on
seems to care.
No, nobody seems to care, and that's fine. I mean, we sat here. I specifically sat here and said stuff's going to happen this season, and I'm just going to take hockey on the TV for the entertainment value. Like, I'm not going to get worked up about other people's decisions. But I mean, just anybody who complains about the COVID protocols needs to understand that as a union, you signed off on them. So
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Vancouver, Montreal played a 3-game set. I believe this was our first 3-game set in the same city in the North Division. So the games were all played in Vancouver. Vancouver wins the first game 5-4 in a shootout. Montreal 7-3 the next night. And Montreal on Saturday night won 5-2. They combined for 25 goals scored. I know everyone's doing the math and saying, hey, that's 26. But that shootout goal is just the bonus goal given so they can have a win. So they actually scored.
So on the NHL standings, it's 26, but they actually only scored 25.
Yes, exactly. So
This is the problem we had when we were trying to do stats.
I remember that last year. Yeah. 25 goals. The first game was incredible, back and forth. And I think, and the highlight, the big player who showed up, Tyler Toffoli against his old team.
And Anderson.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
They went back and forth, the two of them.
It was fantastic. Tyler Toffoli, 5 goals in the 3 games. He was a +6, a hat trick in that first game, I believe it was. He came to play. He was just fantastic. I don't know if you saw any of the games, Nick. They were West Coast games, so they were on a bit later. Did you get a chance to tune into any of the Montreal-Vancouver games?
I watched kind of part of all of them. It was kind of like when I was like getting ready for bed and kind of just like it was on in my room. So I was like sort of listening to it, sort of watching it. Though I did watch the first one. Like I watched 2 periods of that one for sure.
Yeah, it was
and
back
just watched them go back and forth, and it was entertaining.
Yeah. And then you had the Myers situation with the high hit, or I like the hit. I thought it was fine. Myers is a big guy. It looked violent. I forget who he hit.
It looked violent for sure, and I would have understood if they fined him.
Yeah, okay. I mean, there's a debate there to be had, but I thought he's a big guy, tucked his arms, and the head snap back of the Montreal player, so that made it look. But I thought the initial point of contact was kind of chest, shoulder area. So that was my view of it. And then he had to whatever, fighting is fighting, but he had to fight. He had to.
Yeah, he answered for it, and I think both teams after the answer just decided, okay, we're good.
Yeah, we'll move on from that. So, but okay. So the story is Vancouver's players showed up, except for Pedersen, who's having a rough start to the year. Vancouver's stars, though,
played well. I will admit he has played well in games. He's just not putting up stats. Like
that's correct.
He's involved in plays that just don't result in goals. I will give him credit.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's over the top though. Like I feel like there's another gear there. Like he
100%. But I'm not saying he's not. He's also not coasting through the first 4 or 5 games. Like he's involved. He's just not putting up points.
He's not playing like a Dubois. So, but
is that the new verb? He's not Duboising it. All right.
Yeah, I just made it up right now. But Bo Horvat, 4 goals, 2 assists. And then the problem is he's -4. Brock Besser, 2 goals, 2 assists, -6 in those 3 games. Vancouver couldn't keep the puck out of their own net. They scored, but they could not keep the puck out of their own net. And it looks like it may be an issue all season with Vancouver. I picked them to win the division.
I know, and I told you were dumb then. I mean, we both look dumb right now, but that's all another issue.
It's early. We've been mentioning that these teams are going to kind of flip-flop. There's sloppy play. Teams still need to figure it out. We talked about that already.
Yeah.
It was a nice precursor to look forward to these 3-game sets. I thought
100%.
There's still going to be a boring 3-game set here and there, but I think the 3-game sets, especially if you get a good first game, it can kind of carry you through the whole set, and really looking forward to it. There was a touch. Someone had a note that should this be the structure of the schedule going forward, similar to a baseball schedule? What do you think about that, Nick?
I mean, I have no problem with that. I think if it's a full 82-game season, 2 or 3 game series are fine, right? A 56-game season, just because it's all within the division, it works out great. The problem becomes is then, are we then going to not have out-of-division games moving forward, right? Like, is that becoming, do they turn it into like the MLB where you play interleague games and you kind of go around and play each sort of squad one series sort of thing?
Right.
But in that case, would it become, all right, the North is playing the East. I'm just using the current divisions, so bear with me. But the North is playing the East for these 2 weeks. So you play every single team in the other division once over the 2 or 3 week span. And then you go back to playing divisional series. And then the North is playing the West these 2 weeks. And you have to play every single team once from the other division. And then you go back to playing North games. And then the North is playing the Central for these 2 weeks. Is that how it has to go? Because obviously you need more games against your divisional teams.
Yeah.
Than the other teams, and it becomes a mess.
In a regular season, an 82-game season, I think it would benefit those West teams that have to travel so much to get even to division rivals. You know, there's a lot of travel there, so that would benefit them, and especially when it's in your division, and if the playoff format continues with the divisional format, those are big games. Like you're going into Anaheim for those 2 or 3 game sets. That would be really exciting, especially if you get one in March or even April. Definitely.
And let's not forget, like, we're currently in the middle of a 4-game series between Vegas and Arizona.
Yes.
The 4th game is going on right now as we record, and Vegas is winning that game 1-0 at the moment. But you're looking at that and it's entertaining. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm sorry, the game is it done? It's done. It's done. It's 1-0 final.
All right, there you go. But
but like they've had some great games this week.
Not that Anaheim and LA need to save on travel against each other, but they will be playing 5 in a row at some point this season, sure. I believe in February. So 2 in one location and then 3 in another. But I mean, that's a drive down a highway. That's not a big deal.
You can walk.
You could hitchhike there. Just bunch of giant men out on the curb with their bags, throwing out their thumbs. We will come right back, getting into our new segment and our players of the week. That's coming right up. We are back, 20 minutes on ice. Your hosts, Ryan and Nick. It is time to get into our segment that we debuted last week, Players of the Week. Our Players of the Week, we have a Rookie of the Week. We'll name one each, Goalie of the Week, and Skater of the Week. Nick, let's start with Rookies of the Week this week, and you go first. Who was your rookie of this past week? We're talking January 18th to 24th, I believe, was the time frame here.
Okay. Well, my rookie of the week had an unbelievable game today. But he's actually looked very good throughout the season, and that's Pius Sutter from Chicago. Kid had a hat trick today.
Against who are Detroit? They were playing the Red Wings.
Against Detroit.
Yep, okay.
So, I mean, it is against Detroit.
But a Hattie's still a Hattie.
A Hattie is still a Hattie. And, I mean, if we are willing to count last Sunday as well, he got an assist in that game on Sunday. So 4 points in 4 games. He's looked very good playing 15 to 20 minutes a game, depending on the game so far this season. So he's obviously stepping into his role for Chicago, and he's looked good. And I mean, the guy got a hat trick. I don't think any other rookie has really stood out enough to beat a hat trick this week. So
these are the players.
Going with Sutter, I'm not really sure 100% how to say his last name, but it's Pius.
Perfect.
We're going with Pius.
These are the players that Chicago needs to have these types of performances. To have any sort of success this year. They're probably still not a playoff team, but this is the kind of stuff they want to see consistently going forward, to at least have a bright spot at the end of the tunnel. My rookie of the week from the Montreal Canadiens on D, and he looks like he's been playing for several years, Alexander Romanov. He had a goal, but he was +5, 12 shots on net. I believe there was even more attempts. And this is the stat that stuck out for me. He had that stat line, an average ice time, 19 minutes, just over 19 minutes, 19 minutes, 17 seconds. And that's a rookie playing those minutes.
Yeah.
That stat line just says good decisions for nearly 20 minutes a game. That's fantastic. That's an excellent week for Romanov.
Called it last week. Keep your eye on Romanov. Also, shout out to the other guy that I called out last week in the honorable mentions, Dylan Cousins, getting his first NHL goal.
It was nice.
Well done, young boy.
Yeah,
Keep it up.
Nice shot too, right over the shoulder.
That was lethal.
Yeah, I mean, the goalie might be defense even might be thinking pass on that one because he's a rookie. You know, there might be some hesitation. There was no hesitation. He just fired.
He looked over for like a half second. He's like, nah.
Yeah, I'm Dylan Cousins. I got this. Let's do our player of the week. And I've already mentioned him. My player of the week for this past week, Tyler Toffoli, 5 goals, 8 points in 4 games for the Montreal Canadiens. But the impressive part, like I mentioned, he went into Vancouver and showed his old team what they lost when they didn't re-sign him. So a statement, and definitely a statement to his teammates too, that he's going to be a big player for them this year.
Absolutely. And I think you nailed it on the head there. He had a great week. The only player who had more points than him is my player of the week, but I had Toffoli at one point as well going into this show. Then I had to look a little bit deeper, and I ended up picking somebody else. But you're right. Toffoli had a great week, man.
Who do you got, Nick?
So for mine, I have Patrick Laine's former teammate in Mark Scheifele. And 7 points in, I mean, if you count the Toronto game, 4 games, but 7 points in his last 3 games. I know it was against Ottawa, so I don't want people coming at me like that. But he had points, even strength. He had points on the power play. Or no, he didn't have points on. Yeah, he did have points on the power play. He had 2 assists on the power play. He's playing over 21 minutes a game, 26 in the game against Toronto. He's just looked so good. And he's also a center, so he's taking faceoffs. He's doing everything for the team, and 7 points, you can't scoff at 7 points.
That guy's a superstar. That guy is such a superstar. Scheifele can play on Team Canada. He can play on any team. He's going to be successful in almost every situation too. Like, just throw Scheifele out there as much as you possibly can.
And the thing is, like, there's like 2 or 3 teams where he's not the number 1 center in the league.
It would be a battle. It would be a battle. He could play his way into that. I know you're talking about McDavid or Crosby or what have you, but
I was going with McDavid.
Yep.
McKinnon.
Yep. I still think, I know those players are better. I'm not putting up that argument. I'm saying with consistent play, he could put himself in the number 1 center position on those teams. It's not happening. It's not even a conversation worth having.
I don't think he can compete with those 2. And the third one I was actually going to say was Matthews, just because Crosby's getting a little bit older. Yeah. That one's more iffy for me, but the first 2 I don't think he touches. I'm sorry, Ryan.
No, it's a competition. Anyways, it's not even worth having. So it's not happening. So let's not talk about it. Let's get to our goalies of the week. Nick, who you got?
I get to go first? Okay.
You take it away.
I'm going with the same guy that I had last week. So it's sort of a cop-out answer, but at the same time, he's been lights out.
Yeah.
And this is Varlamov in the Island. He's just been so good. Like,
came back with that.
There's not even anything else you can say about his play. He's given up 1 goal in 3 games this season, 1 goal in the last 2 games as well. And he's faced 24, 27, and 31 shots in those 3 games. It's not like they're not giving, I mean, the first game, 24 shots isn't a whole lot, but 27 and 31, he's getting pelted and he's making it look easy. Before
our recording here, 983 save percentage for the week for Varlamov. +2, he had to deal with his players shooting at his head in warm-up. Just how it's, until he got hurt. He didn't play the second game against the Rangers, but he came back and he showed his team, you guys are going to fire pucks at my head and warm up like a bunch of idiots, and yet I'm still going to go out there and save your asses and let you win a few games. So good pick on Varlamov there. I may get knocked for being a bit of a homer here, but I'm going to go Freddie Anderson. Freddie Anderson for my goalie of the week. 3 games played, 2 of them wins, 5 goals against, save percentage of .938. Freddie is known as a slow starter. Usually has a terrible October. I believe he's had 4 or 5 seasons with the Leafs, and there was only 1 season where he didn't have a bad October. And so this year he had a slow first couple games there, and then he stepped up and he showed them, no, I'm your guy. He puts up a couple wins, puts up the incredible save percentage. And while I don't think the Leafs are a defensive juggernaut at any point yet, or will they ever be with this roster, they are definitely an improved defensive team. They are showing the ability early in the season to limit teams. I'm not going to say shut teams down, limit teams and not let teams back in the game. And Freddie has been a big part of that. So he is my goalie of the week this week.
And I get that. And I think he's played well this week. I still think there's another level for Freddie. Like, I don't think he's fully reached his potential for the year. I probably would have put John Gibson in, picking up 2 wins as well for the Ducks. He looked very good, even though the Ducks are not a good team, let's be honest.
He has to look phenomenal for the Ducks to even have a chance.
And I think he did this week, so that's why he would have been my second. But Freddie is definitely top 3 for me for this week. So it's not a total homer pick, even though it is a homer pick, Ryan. It's fine.
Oh, Nick. All right, those were our players of the week. Nick, it's time for our new segment here. We don't have any flashy sounds or music for it, but it's coming up. But 3 hot, 3 not. This is going to be a very, very interesting segment coming back on a weekly basis here. So one host is going to take 3 hot teams, and one host is going to take 3 not teams. Just going to run down who your 3 teams are, why you have them on your list. Nick, I'm going to let you start off our inaugural edition of 3 hot, 3 not, and you get the hot teams.
Sounds good to me, my friend.
3 hot.
Well,
go at it, Nick.
I'm going to go in reverse order, so 3, 2, 1.
Cool.
And my third team for the week, and it's really hard to say that they're a third team because they only played 1 game, but holy crap, did they look freaking amazing in this game. It's the Dallas Stars. And it comes down to one thing. Ready? 7-0.
Yeah. Not good.
7-0. Like, they won their first game of the year after not playing for
a week and a
4
half.
months.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But they had to wait around because of COVID.
Yeah, so they haven't played yet. The team that they played, who was it? They played Nashville, right? Nashville's played a couple games. They were getting into a groove. They go into Dallas, where there's fans, by the way, and I wonder how much that actually played a factor.
Interesting, very interesting.
7-0 is the way you come out into the beginning of the game. Congratulations, welcome to the top 3.
It was a power move, and don't sleep on Dallas. They're coming back.
I mean, they've played 1 game, so let's not get 2.
Again, you're making statements, right? Like, no need to close.
They made a statement for sure.
Open your eyes when you're playing the Dallas Stars because they're coming at you.
All right, next team for the week is the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yep, solid pick.
And it looked very good this week. They went 3-1 against Arizona in their 4-game head-to-head matchup. But it was the way they handled all 4 games. They just looked dominant in all 4 games, except for the one that they lost. Other than that, though, they looked dominant. Even in that game, they outshot Arizona. They just happened to get Arizona just got better goaltending. Like 5-2 lost Arizona, where you're outshooting them 31-26.
There's something about
it doesn't add up.
There's something about Vegas this year. They almost look like that team of destiny. Like this is the number 1 team. They've got it together. Everything's flowing.
They got 2 top goalies.
They have 2 top goalies. They just have really good offensive pieces. Like they've put together that almost like an offensive juggernaut, but no upper echelon superstar. They have some really great goal scorers, though.
Stone would be the closest that they have.
Yeah, and he's a great goal scorer, but he's not, the upper
player of the week in the NHL this year.
There you go. So, I mean, just Vegas looks so good. I mean, their defense is awesome as well. Vegas is ready to roll here. and it would have to be some sort of catastrophe to knock them off the cliff, because they are almost number one. Who is number one as far as you're concerned?
So my number one, again, it's for this week, so take that as you will, but even for the season, I still think I would put them at number one. We're only 2 weeks in, so that's not saying a whole lot. It's the Montreal Canadiens, dude.
Interesting. Okay.
They have looked in every single game. Even I know they lost their home opener or the season opener to Toronto. I know that. But I thought Montreal was the better team in that game and should have won that game.
You did
and they
say
lost
that.
this week to Vancouver
In the
in a shootout. Both games overtime or shootout losses.
Yep. They have not.
And that game could have gone either way. Both teams were firing. And then they come out in the next game against Vancouver and beat them 7-3 and then 5-2 just to wrap everything up.
Yep.
And you add in the game against Edmonton earlier in the week. So they were 3-0 on the week, or 3-0-1 on the week. And I just think they've looked so dominant, which is weird because we were talking about teams that don't have superstars.
Yes.
Montreal has no superstar.
You're right.
Outside of Price.
Their forward group scares me, but, well, it did scare me. Tyler Toffoli's getting the job done. Anderson's getting the job done. Suzuki's getting the job done. Kotkaniemi's getting the job done.
Yeah, but we would have never guessed that before the year.
It was all potential, right? It was all this could be
they
good.
They were the team of potential.
Yeah, well, it's good. It's a very good unit. Montreal, I think there's a level of hope that every team comes into the season with, but the hope has been realized these first 2 weeks for Montreal.
They've looked very good, and that's why they sit at number one. And until they start to struggle, which who knows, they might not. Obviously, they're going to lose games. I'm not saying they're not going to lose a game in regulation all season long. That's not possible. They're going to lose a game. But if Price plays the way he's played, because he's looked very good this year, I know they've lost 2 shootout games where he's given up 4 and 5 goals respectively. But even then, he hasn't looked bad. He's been left out to dry a couple times.
Yeah. No, nothing can be pinned on Price. So excellent choices, Nick. No argument here for me. I will go.
You weren't going to be allowed to. So.
I will go with my 3 knots, and they do relate quite closely with the teams that you've laid out. So my number 3 team of the not so hot teams this week, Vancouver. They were close in the shootout game with Montreal. They can't play defense this year.
They cannot.
And their big guns are putting up points, except for Pettersson. I like Höglander too. Their rookie this year. He's got a couple on the season, but they can't piece it all together. They don't look good. The goaltending, not necessarily an issue, but you still need that save that you can't reasonably ask for, but you need it, and they're not getting it. They had 22 goals against from the 18th to the 24th, and that was over a 4-game span. 1 win, as I mentioned, in the shootout, but 3 losses. This team looks horrendous, and it sounds like it's panic time in Vancouver from everything I've been seeing on Twitter.
And you know what? Before the season, I mentioned that if they didn't get goaltending, it would be an issue, and they haven't got goaltending. And to be 100% fair to the goaltenders, they've been left out to dry a lot this year.
Yes.
I saw this really cool graphic today on Twitter where it was showing the work rate and the goals against average for the goaltenders. And Thatcher Demko has had the hardest work rate out of any goaltender. Now he's given up a lot of goals, so it hasn't helped him. But even Braden Holtby was on that hard end of the spectrum. So that shows you right there, they're getting left out to dry a lot. So I can't fully blame them, but you got to steal a couple saves for your team, and they haven't been doing that. And you mentioned Pettersson earlier. He hasn't fully shown up yet. He's played well, but he hasn't really shown up yet.
I think he'll show up. It's just
I'm not worried about him.
Yeah,
he just hasn't fully shown up.
He's slumping right now, and it'll fix itself. Not worried about him. My number 2 not so hot team. I hate to put them here, but they're expected to be here. The Ottawa Senators. They haven't been able to put together wins, and they're sort of given this free pass this year because they're not expected
to be awful.
Yeah, they're not expected to do well. They didn't put together a win in this past week. 2 losses, an overtime loss. Now in those 3 games, 14 goals against, which is averaging just over 4 goals against, and you're not going to win with those stats. But that's kind of, again, it's kind of expected for this team. So I feel bad. I'm like piling on when they don't need it, but they played to their expectations. And so they are number 2 on my not list.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not a bad thing though. Like you said it. It's where they're expected to be. So it's not like they're underperforming, like we would say Vancouver is.
Yeah.
Ottawa is performing where we expected them to be, and they're probably going to be in the bottom 3 a lot in this little segment that we do. But
Yeah,
the nice thing is that some weeks they're not going to be in the bottom 3, and we'll take them out, and we will do that probably pretty quickly. But
it should be noted when Ottawa has a good week. We'll try and make note of it. But they were the Ottawa Senators. They were exactly what we thought they were.
I'm just waiting for Matt Murray to stand on his head for a couple games in a row and just make them look good, and then fall back down to earth the rest of the season. But like, there will be a couple weeks where Matt Murray just looks phenomenal, I think, and he'll win them 2 games that week, and everyone's going to be like, have they found their goalie for the future? And then he'll give up 4 goals the next game or something ridiculous.
Yeah. You mentioned Dallas, and last week for my players of the week, my goalie of the week was UC Saros. I said there was question marks, and he played well for the first 2 games, and then they played Dallas, and they lost 7-0. So this past week, prior to our recording, 2 losses, 11 goals against in those losses, 7 of those against the Dallas Stars. Nashville was horrible this week, just awful. Like, they should have gone in if this is a for real team, which right now they don't look like a for real team. They should have gone into Dallas and pushed them around because they weren't strong enough. They weren't ready enough. They've been practicing for 3 weeks
and they hadn't been.
Yeah, and they hadn't been, right, because COVID prevented them. So Nashville should have come in there and imposed their will, and instead they wilted. And Dallas imposed their will, and that's why my number 1 not so hot team this week is the Nashville Predators.
Yeah, and I'm totally on board with that. They had 1 game postponed. They're currently losing right now to the Dallas Stars as well. It's not good. Something's not right there, and they need to find a way to right the ship.
Anybody who's on the not so hot list needs a way to right the ship so that they don't.
No, Ottawa doesn't need to right the ship because Ottawa's doing what they're expected to. Vancouver and Nashville need to right the ship.
All right, Nick, that was a good opening. 3 hot, 3 not. It'll be back throughout the season. As we each provide. We'll switch it up each week. I'll do hot sometimes. You'll do not. But,
unless you decide that you really want to do the same thing 2 weeks in a row.
Rag on teams over and over again for every week. No, I don't think that sounds pleasant. So are you ready to hit the randomizer here?
Always, buddy. Always.
All right, let's do it. Today we're playing shoot or pass. That is pretty much a would you rather situation. So we'll each come up with 3 shoot or pass situations, would you rather, and we'll discuss which option we'll take. Nick, are you ready for this?
Yes. Can I go first?
You must go first. Go ahead.
I must go first? All right.
You insist, so you must.
All right. Well, I mean, considering that we've already played this game earlier in the show, we're really going to get down to it, Ryan. Would you rather shoot with Patrick Laine or pass with Pierre-Luc Dubois?
Good question. I feel like I'm leaning shoot Patrick Laine because he's a goal scorer. Now, I'm not sold on either player.
I'm not saying Patrick Laine shot over Pierre-Luc Dubois' pass. I was just using the name of
the shoot option is Patrick Laine, and that's the way I think I'm leaning. You're always looking for goals, and if you hang your hat on a player like Pierre-Luc Dubois, who is a very excellent player, you're just going to come up short a little bit when you need it. Whereas if you hang your hat on Laine, some stuff can be swept under the rug because he can put up some goals for you. So if I take the shoot option, Patrick Laine, and it's the goal scoring that does it for me.
I didn't think that was going to be as hard for you to answer. I figured that was going to be an easy Patrick Laine call.
Really? Yeah. Well, I mean, I was pretty settled on him, but I did want to explain my why I took him, and I don't want to rag on Dubois either. Didn't end well.
No, it's not. It's not a rag on Dubois, but Patrick Laine has almost 100 more points than Pierre-Luc Dubois, and they were drafted 1 spot away from each other in the same draft.
In the last couple of years, though, they are quite close. I think I heard that stat on TSN. I believe one of them is at 113 points the past 2 seasons, and one of them is at 110. But overall, throughout their careers, yeah, it's you're saying Laine is ahead. All right, Nick, shoot or pass? Let's go with shoot. Watching every game on TV this year, as we will do, or pass. You attend a few by yourself, no guest coming with you, and there's only about a dozen fans in the stands, no concessions. You got to stay in your...
Can't have a guest?
No, it's just you, and it's a few games. I'm not saying you got to go to every game, so that's the pass option. Let's say half a dozen games to the Leafs because that's your local team, or watch every game on TV this year. That's shoot.
I'm watching every game on TV, and the reason is that if I'm going to a game, for the most part, it's for the entertainment value. And the entertainment value, a lot of it comes from who you go with. Like, if I'm going to a game, I'm either going with my dad, and I get to spend some time with my dad, or I'm going with one of my buddies, like you or Kyle or Justin, right? Like, I'm not going necessarily for the game sometimes. I'm going to hang out with my friends at a game where we get to watch a sporting event and cheer on a team.
Yep.
If I'm not going with if I have to go sit by myself for 3 hours away from everybody, I would have no fun. Like, I know that. I know that about myself personally.
You've never been
so
to
I would rather stay home, watch the game with my father on TV.
You've never been to a pro hockey game by yourself?
No.
Oh.
First of all, I've never had any expendable income to do that.
I did. When I was your age, Nick, I did. And I went to a few of them. Definitely.
I don't have expendable income, my friend.
You're not rolling in it from all your business ventures? Okay. Well, I can see the look on your face.
Mm.
All right, Nick, you are up again. Shoot or pass?
I just had to pay for school again, Ryan. I have no money.
Yeah. It's so good.
It's awesome. So awesome.
You're up. Shoot or pass? Go ahead. What do you got
All right.
next?
Well, Ryan, you are GM Joe Sakic.
Of course I am.
Right now, you are GM Joe Sakic of the Colorado Avalanche. Shoot or pass? Shoot. Philip Grubauer. Pass. Pavel Francouz.
I am taking shoot Grubauer. He comes with good. I heard a lot of good things when he was traded out of Washington. They even thought about going with him ahead of Holtby the year that they won the cup, and he got a couple games in. He didn't show up well. He still seems to be growing as a goaltender. And all of a sudden, Germany is this hockey hotbed where top guys are coming
Hold on, they have 5 people on the team that you can name.
I know. But I'm taking Grubauer over Francouz.
Okay, can I adjust the question now?
Please do.
Okay. Grubauer or Varlamov, who they traded away to get Grubauer.
Yes, okay. Man, good question. That is a good situation.
Shoot for Grubauer, pass for Varlamov.
Okay, I'm passing for Varlamov in this situation because Colorado's ready to win now, and Varlamov right now has shown he can put up better situations than Grubauer does. And Varlamov made it to the semifinals in the return to play, and Colorado, what'd they do? They get out of the first round?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, Varlamov made it farther than Grubauer. So, for a right now situation, taking Varlamov.
Grubauer didn't play in the playoffs.
I know. He was hurt. But Grubauer's a good goalie. And watching him this year, I like how he plays. I like his positional play. I haven't seen too much go through him. That first game was the first game, whatever. But, yeah, I like Grubauer long-term for a win-now mentality. And if Varlamov was an option, I like that. All right.
Good answer.
Nick, for my next shoot or pass, shoot, do the entire playoffs in a bubble like we did, or pass 2-week quarantine period so there would be a pause in the playoffs between the second and third round when the teams come out of their divisions. Shoot for the playoff bubble or pass for the 2-week quarantine period.
Would it then be a bubble afterwards?
No. I mean, I guess so. Small bubbles. You're still
It would
traveling.
have to be a 14 bubble, wouldn't it?
Well, you're still traveling. You're just quarantining now because you're coming out of your division.
Okay, but here's the question though. The North Division.
Yeah, well,
How does the representative of the North Division play in their own?
yeah, I mean, we're going to have to look at that when that situation comes. Let's assume that they have to do this 2-week quarantine between second and third round to be able to cross the border against whatever. This is hypothetical. To be able to cross the border and play whatever team they may match up against. Before it starts, they have to do a 2-week quarantine and exist in their own team bubble afterwards.
I'm okay with the 2-week quarantine, honestly.
To break
So
up the playoffs?
I would probably lean that way so that we get the divisional games at home.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then if it was me running the league right now, I would probably pick a city and have the final 4 in that city. And
Yeah.
I know that goes against everything.
No, that's
But-
that's a logical answer. Like, I can see it going that way because when the playoffs are going, I guess it'll be June.
Yeah.
Can't guarantee that the border is open. Like, I wouldn't.
don't think it will be.
Yeah, I
to be
wouldn't say
honest.
we're trending that way. So I think you're right. Where this Dubois trade may set a precedent too. Canadian government is looking at possibly doing just a 7-day quarantine. So these teams may come up to Canada, play the semifinals in a bubble, and this Dubois trade will set this precedent as to how long they have to quarantine.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that it necessarily means that they have to come up to Canada. Like, they don't have to do the bubble in Canada. It could be like Minnesota is a great location to have the Final Four, right? I would even say Detroit is a great location to have the Final Four, like Hockey Town, Hockey State. You could pick literally anywhere. It doesn't matter because their games are on opposite days anyway. So, like, there's no real issue with scheduling.
Less cases in Canada, Nick.
No, I'm just saying, like, you could go to a place down in the States. If that was what they really wanted to do, they could do that. That's not the issue.
Yeah.
But I think, in my opinion, instead of quarantining everybody, putting them into a bubble, and then having teams leave the bubble consistently throughout the playoffs, it would make more sense to do the divisional matchups at the home rinks and let them travel, whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And then do a week or 2-week quarantine and have those 4 teams go into the same location. And I mean, think about the matchups that we would get in that Final Four with 2 weeks of prep time.
You're gonna, yeah. Oh, well, it could go either way at the same time. It could go either way, where a team.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you could either get everyone is going to shut each other down, and
Yeah.
there's going to be low scoring games, or they're going to know the other team's game plan so well
Yeah.
that we're going to get 7-5 games because every team is going to play differently than they normally do.
You're also going to get a team in the semis or even in the final, hopefully not, but who just gets blown away when you're expecting a quality, 6 or 7 game series. You may get a team that's blown away because it was successful against the 7 other teams it had to play. And then when it shows up in the semifinals, it's a brand new team, maybe, players or combinations of style you never had to play with. And all of a sudden you can't handle it because you've only seen 7 different teams.
Yep.
All
And I
year.
think that's a risk every year where you're like coming out of your division, but it's especially apparent this year.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it will be interesting. I would probably go with your second option. So I'll take the pass option there with the quarantine in between and then bubbling up after.
All right. Perfect.
I'm
Nick,
adding on the bubble after.
fair enough. It makes sense. Your final shoot or pass.
Final shoot or pass. This one's a tough one. I don't really have one, so I'm kind of making it up as we go.
Well, I got
What?
one. I got one if you need some more time then. Let me do mine.
I have one.
Okay.
I have one.
All right, if
But
you're
it's-
ready.
and it's jersey related for you, my friend.
Perfect. I love it. This is up my alley.
All right. You got a nice North Star jersey in behind you there.
Yep.
And you got the Leaf jersey right beside it.
St. John's Maple Leafs. Yep.
I know. But I mean it's a Leaf jersey just
Yep.
with the word St. John's where Toronto should be. Vintage jerseys, those two. Shoot for the North Stars, pass for the Leafs, and you could call it St. John's. I
It's
don't
a-
care if you want to use the St. John's one.
Yeah, I would take a slap shot from my own face-off circle. It's the Minnesota North Stars jersey here.
Even that white one, I don't like the white one. That's why I put it in.
I like all of the Minnesota North Stars jerseys except for the ones they used, and it was like a year or two before they went to Dallas, but they changed their logo to what Dallas was using. But that Minnesota North Stars jersey behind me, I'm shooting for that all the time. This as a Toronto Maple Leafs jersey is just a reminder of failure in the 70s and 80s and that's what it stands for, which is part of the reason why I don't like the Leafs reverse retro this year as well.
There's a whole bunch of reasons why that one is bad.
So anyone who's just listening to the podcast, we have the 1991 white home North Stars jersey behind me, and then I have the 70s and 80s blue Toronto Maple Leafs jersey, which is a St. John's Maple Leafs jersey. So that Leafs jersey reminds me of failure. No, I don't choose that one. I'm choosing the North Stars jersey. It's a beautiful hockey jersey. I love that logo, and the colors are fantastic. I'm shooting for the North Stars jersey every single time on that one. What's your favorite, Nick? What's your favorite on that one?
Out of those two?
Yeah.
I don't mind the Leafs jersey. I really don't like the white version of the North Stars jersey. I love the color scheme and everything, but I don't like the white version. If that was the other version, shooting on that one 100%. But the white one never really stood out to me. It kind of was just bland.
And that Maple Leafs jersey doesn't equate to losing for you? Like,
I'm too young.
So it's just another jersey from the Leafs jersey history?
The reason is that Leaf jersey, that was the Sittler years.
Yeah.
And that's my father's favorite player. We've mentioned this before on the show. And so for me, it relates to my father's favorite player, not failure.
All right. For my final shooter pass, I'm going off of the hockey trail. So this is a hypothetical situation.
Hypothetical?
Yeah, you absolutely have to choose one. No switching around the situations or modifying what I'm presenting to you. So
I hate you.
Shoot, you lose your sense of touch and sense of smell. Or pass, you lose your sense of vision and your sense of taste. Which group of senses are you losing? So you can
My
lose.
sense of smell is not very good to begin with.
But you also lose touch. So you'll never feel anything again.
But like, hold on. When we say touch, like, are we talking like if I try to pick something up, I won't be able to feel the fact that I'm picking something up?
You'll be able to feel that, but touching.
Like I won't be able to feel the different textures, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, or grabbing a block of ice, you won't be able to tell that's cold or I mean, if you touch the oven, you're going to burn your hand, but you can't feel that it's hot. You've lost your sense of touch. You can't tell that something is bumpy.
That one. I choose that one.
You want to lose your sense of touch and smell?
Yes, because I don't really have a sense of smell, but I find that taste is a lot better, and I like seeing.
Seeing is a big one. I mean, that's a pretty big one to drop. So, all right, Nick loses his sense of touch and sense of smell.
My touch of senses. And
so we're going to work on that moving forward, getting rid of...
No, we're not.
Right. Sorry, pardon me. It was a hypothetical, so...
Not happening.
There we go. That is the horn. That brings an end to this 20 Minutes on Ice. Be sure to subscribe to the show and give us a thumbs up on YouTube. That really helps us out and gets people seeing the podcast.
Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube as well.
Subscribe as well. Yep, that helps us out. And hit the notification bell so that you get notified when new episodes come up. Follow me on Twitter at Ryan_H16. Follow Nick at Nick McVicker. Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at 20 Minutes on Ice. And you can find us on garagedoorsports.com under the shows tab. We will be back.
Be like Zach Boychuk.
Zach Boychuk liking our Instagram posts that we put up there. That's Nick on that one. He's fantastic at that. I am too old to understand more than one social media platform. We will talk about this and more next week. Until then, thank you for listening. Goodbye, everybody.